it was announced just this week, 6 Secret Service agents have been suspended following that attempted assassination on President Trump. The suspensions were issued, again, nearly a year later, with the agents actually receiving unpaid suspensions ranging from 10 to 42 days, followed by reassignments to roles with way less responsibility. Reports indicate that some of the suspended agents were, go figure, relatively inexperienced or had limited time to prep for the event. Yeah, let's talk about that inexperience. We know who assigned some of those inexperienced agents to President Trump, because remember, he wasn't president then. Additionally, key supervisors who approved the final security plan were not originally disciplined. Instead, some of them got promoted. Some of them got reassigned with significant new roles within the agency. Gee, I wonder at whose direction. The agency's previous director, Kimberly Cheadle, remember Miss Cheetos? She resigned right after the incident. Meantime, Helen Comperatore, that's the widow of Corey Comperatore. Remember him? That's the fire chief who was killed. People died that day. Is now publicly criticizing the Secret Service as the 1-year anniversary approaches this weekend. Comperatore telling the New York Post, quote, "I think the Secret Service is garbage." Wow. Adding, "All I've wanted this entire time was to sit down with the men who screwed up that day and find out why." Exactly. Joining us now to weigh in on the new details and the president's response, he's a former FBI special agent and a former Navy SEAL, always a Navy SEAL, and the host of the Experts Podcast. I think we just saw him on the show last night. Is this deja vu? Jonathan Gilliam back on the program. Jonathan, how are you, sir?
Doing good. And you know, she answered her own question there, Dan. She doesn't have to go in front of them, bless her heart. She said they're garbage, and that's why. That's why it happened, because they're garbage.
Okay, interview's done. Thanks, Jonathan. And okay, so this, what is it, Sunday will be the 1-year anniversary. Trump, for me, a little too forgiving. I'm sorry, and I think you would be a bit harsher too. And maybe it's because his daughter-in-law was interviewing him and he's reflecting and, you know, trying to be nice because obviously they're still guarding him and will be for the next 3.5 years as president and the rest of his life. I don't know if I would be as kind after I was almost shot in the head because of incompetency. And let's be real. You heard what we said in that report, Jonathan. How could inexperienced agents end up on a detail for a former president who's the leading candidate and in the polls at the time was going to become president, which he did? I mean, really? You're assigning inexperienced agents to a guy like that?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a couple things. Let's start with the way that Trump has evolved now. He does not really get into mudslinging like he used to. He just doesn't. I think now that he has the power to get done what he wants to do, he's avoided going down that rabbit hole. And I got to say, I commend him for that, because that was the one criticism that I've always had of him, is that he would spend the majority of his time battling with media and things like that, and it didn't do any good. However, if he wants to make light of this and he wants to say, okay, I'm satisfied, I would hope that things are being done that have fixed the problem. Because, you know, here's the thing with President Trump is that he's an expert with economics. He's an expert with world affairs. He definitely is an expert in campaigning. Better politician than politicians, and a better leader than politicians. But he's not versed in law enforcement and intelligence the same way. So he puts people in place in the things that he knows that are experts. He picks an economist that knows what he's doing to run that part,
right,
or world affairs.
He always says he puts the smartest people for those individual, whatever it may be, in the room with him that are smarter than him. If you're not the smartest one, get the smartest people in the room. I mean, look at who he put as the new director, the guy that's been by his side, I believe, Sean Curran, since 2017. Right. He's been protecting him. He trusts him. He believes in him. He's now the boss.
But the problem is that overall, he doesn't know law enforcement. And he doesn't know how these agencies work. So he has to depend on people that he doesn't know really that well, but assumes that they know what they're doing because they're at the top of their of their agency, or he brings in a political appointee. He learned this lesson about the DOD with the generals, that generals climb a ladder and then they're pulled up the rest of the way. So you don't necessarily get the most competent generals. And these agencies are the same way. And the Secret Service, I saw it firsthand when I was in the FBI, and I was a liaison to the United Nations and was there every year for the General Assembly. And what I saw by the Secret Service was unbelievable. You would see State Department protection detail come in, and they were meat eaters. They were warriors. You would see NYPD intel detectives there, amazing dudes. And then you would see the Secret Service, and they were like soy, skinny
like
dudes
DEI
and young females.
Yeah. Well, we saw the reaction that day, right? People couldn't get their damn guns out of their holsters in time. They weren't big enough to even get over Trump and protect him. There were people on that detail that never, ever, ever should have been assigned to him, and we all know why.
Even though Trump thankfully survived, a heroic firefighter named Corey Comperatore was tragically killed. Comperator, who was only 50 years old and who had served as the fire chief for Buffalo Township in Butler County, died while protecting his daughter from the gunfire. And even though he's gone, he will never, ever be forgotten. In addition, crooks injured 2 other people on that day, which was July 13th of 2024. And he himself was ultimately killed by counter-snipers. But still, talk about a tragic and horrifying event that will never, ever be forgotten. And many of us who saw the incident happen live, whether it be in person or via the live stream itself, remember the devastation and wanted answers and accountability. So now the question is, nearly 1 full year after the fact, will those answers ever be given? There were many unanswered questions at the time, and then Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle left us with more questions than answers during a hearing before Congress about it. But one can certainly hope that all the facts about what transpired on that fateful day will eventually come to light, because the American people deserve to know the truth. They deserve to know what really happened on that day. On that note, the Secret Service is finally taking steps toward accountability for the assassination attempt. 6 agents have been suspended without benefits or pay, as the agency faces ongoing scrutiny for the operational failures that transpired on that afternoon. So here with reaction is Colonel Rob Mayus. Colonel, thank you for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Riley.
So I think clearly one of the most surreal moments that I've ever lived through and in American history, undoubtedly. But the question is, are we ever going to get all of the answers about what really happened that afternoon?
Unfortunately, I don't think we are, and I know that it's our tendency to want to characterize Sean Curran's finally making the organization he now leads take accountability for this. But you know, those suspensions without pay were between 12 and 42 days, and they were done more than 6 months ago. So the fact that this is coming out now, only now, is a failure. The fact that the deputy director, Quinn, has been in this organization ever since then and didn't get on this immediately and fire those 6 individuals first, and is saying audacious things like we can't fire our way out of this now, is appalling. And you know who I think is being disrespected the most about this? Mrs. Comperatore, Corey's wife and daughters, who he died trying to save there. They're the ones being disrespected, and the American people are being disrespected. Mr. Curran needs to go ahead and fire Deputy Director Quinn and hire some competent people that are willing to take the mission on of the Secret Service, because where can you be in any organization where you have the ultimate mission failure happen and nobody gets fired? It doesn't really matter that the political appointee, Kim Cheadle, resigned. She should have resigned immediately, considering the lack of competence from that team that set up that site. But she didn't. She had to be forced to resign. So I tell you what, I'm glad they're finally taking accountability for it, but it's not enough. It's not soon enough. And Mr. Curran needs to fire some people immediately and get to the bottom of this, because, you know, you have Brian Ruth out there that by pure luck and happenstance and the Secret Service actually doing its protective job that it's supposed to do, that tried to kill the president next down in Florida. And that guy we still don't know enough about him, and we don't know enough about the assassin and Butler. So there is a lot of ground that needs to be covered here.